Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my Hispanic Heritage Month celebration review of Pan's Labyrinth. So, being a Latino film reviewer here on YouTube, celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month here on the channel has been something I have really wanted to dive into, especially since in the past I have done Pride Month series of reviews highlighting LGBTQIA films. Really wanted to make an effort in celebrating one of my other most prominent identities, that being an LGBTQIA Latinx film reviewer here on YouTube. And with so much great cinema hailing from the Latinx and Hispanic communities, all month long I'm going to be celebrating with a different review of one of my personal favorite films, directed by somebody within the Latinx community, as well as stars that come from the community. Most all of this year's selections are in Spanish, and while they don't all focus on celebrating Latinx culture, they are a celebration of Latinx creatives, and that is really what the mission is here. So to kick off this year, I did select some more well-known titles overall, but I'm hoping to continue this on in years to come, and we'll get into some deeper dives and really hope to help people see some new talent within the Latinx community. But today we are here to talk about Pan's Labyrinth, possibly my favorite film from a Latinx director. It's one of my favorite films of all time, and to this day, it remains my favorite film from famed Mexican director Guillermo del Toro. Released in 2006, Pan's Labyrinth is a war epic fantasy that follows the tale of Ophelia as she navigates life in a war-ridden country. When she stumbles upon a labyrinth, fantastical creatures appear, and both we and Ophelia have to realize who are the real monsters in this life. Released in 2006, this film runs 119 minutes, is directed and written by Guillermo del Toro, and is 100% in the Spanish language. So many within the film world obviously know about Pan's Labyrinth, and so many just in the general public know about this film. This film did win 3 Oscars for cinematography, for art direction, and for makeup, all very well deserved, in addition to nabbing a few extra nominations. And what's so special about that is while Guillermo del Toro himself did not win the Oscar this year, all of those that won for their work on this film were also of Latinx descent. We get a chance to see a film focusing on a war that isn't World War II, that isn't the Vietnam War, that isn't World War I. We get to see a war completely out of the scope of American wars, and that automatically makes it something a little bit more special. Now, what I personally love about Pan's Labyrinth, it really cemented who Del Toro was as a filmmaker and blended 2 of my favorite genres together expertly in a way that I don't think has been done nearly as well in any other film throughout history. It has some somber, harrowing horror aspects blended in seamlessly with these wonderful, fantastical elements, all set up against this dreary, war-ridden, horrifying background. As I had mentioned, this did win the award for Best Makeup, and if anything could have beaten it, I don't know what it would have been, because the makeup and practical effects in this film still to this day look outstanding. Even when you watch this through a 2020 lens, Pan's Labyrinth looks stellar. The fawn works beautifully as this practical creature. Of course, the Pale Man is still one of the most haunting character designs I've ever seen in film, both brought to life expertly by longtime Del Toro collaborator Doug Jones. Set design and Oscar award-winning cinematography bring this gritty yet hauntingly beautiful atmosphere to life. Our cast all deliver stellar performances. Ivana Baquero obviously is wonderful in this child performance as Ophelia, who is an 11-year-old having to balance these fantastical monsters with her real life stepfather monster and trying to deal with the ramifications of being in this post war apocalyptic atmosphere. When I say we get some horror imagery and set pieces in here, Del Toro does not hold back. Not only do we get the pale man, who is just horrifying, period, the fawn is also pretty scary. And when he gets mad, real scary. But the gruesomeness of the human brutality as we deal with these rebels coming up, people stabbing each other, blowing each other's brains out. I mean, it is gory and very tense throughout. And then we get to the story itself. This wonderful fairy tale of this princess supposedly being reincarnated and having to complete a few simple missions to find her way back to her palace. But the underlying message of the film is so much deeper than that, about a child basically coping with being in this highly traumatic experience and atmosphere with an abusive stepfather surrounded by war and death. And it really leaves it all up to wonderful interpretation by the end on whether or not this is all just a coping mechanism or if we live in somewhat of a fantastical land. But regardless, it works as a great allegory for innocence and dealing with trauma. And the ending of this film is so daring. Your jaw is just on the floor. Your heart is aching as you watch these events unfold. Honestly, I think there's virtually no fault when it comes to Pan's Labyrinth. This is Del Toro's masterpiece. It is still the pinnacle of filmmaking from him, and some of the best fantasy filmmaking of all time, rooted in a gritty reality that brings upon somber emotion. Pan's Labyrinth is an affecting, beautiful, haunting fairy tale. So if you've never seen it, definitely make sure to check this one out. If you have seen it, well, there's never a bad time to revisit Pan's Labyrinth. So that is my review of Pan's Labyrinth. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on my latest videos, including each of my Hispanic Heritage Month reviews. And please join in on the discussion. Have you seen Pan's Labyrinth? If you have, what are your thoughts on this film? Let me know either in the comments down below or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.